Hi, it's Colleen Schmidt once again from Divination Counseling Service, here to present to you today the the new moon chart of August 18th, 2020. So I wanted to look at, I do an article on the new moons every month, and I do them as sun signs based in the asteroid energy. So they're based on whatever asteroids are following through in that energy, which gives the sun sign something to look for energy wise during that particular month. So the one we're looking, when I look at them on the video, I want to look at them in their totality, what they mean to everybody. So it's a little bit different than just doing the sun sign. So our chart today is, here we go, okay. And a couple of things that, we want to look at. Let's look at the 2635 placement of the sun and the moon sitting there in the fifth house, or the house of expression, the house of children. It's interesting because August 18th, one of the biggest subjects that we're going to be discussing is sending children back to school. So the fifth house all immediately becomes an active house. So it's important what we see here. Now, just at the border of that house, which I like to look at cusps and things that might fall within a degree of that cusp of that house, because I think that they are featured elements often when you're reading a chart. In this particular case, we see Minerva, which is an asteroid for strategy. And I think that with sending kids back to school, that's going to be one of the most critical aspects of this. So as we look at that axis, it is like an 11th to 5th, which 11th would be our goals, okay? I just feel again that it's, of course, there's nothing there right in the opposition. However, there is something right on the cusp. See, right here we have Minerva at 1446. This is a 1409 cusp. Up here at 1426, again on the cusp itself, is the asteroid it's Pythia. And what that means is that Pythia is, things kind of go like we expect. It's an intuition asteroid, but not exactly, oftentimes with almost opposite results than what we expected. So the strategy here does not look good. Also, Pythia and Eos, which is chaos. So an asteroid of chaos, early mornings and chaos. And of course, kids going back to school, if they do go physically, would be early morning chaos. But they're both retrograde, and they're both opposing the asteroid Minerva. And that kind of indicates that perhaps some of the strategies that we're employing are not going to bring the results that we had hoped, or that things are different than we thought they might be. So I did want to start with that because I thought that was a pretty telling concept. The other thing that I think is pretty telling is if we go here and we look at this axis, okay? So let's point out first of all that this Hygeia, and it's not the only. We've got Polaris, these are all falling in the Aries point. These is the world, okay? And what we're noting about our world has a lot to do with a disease. And that is the absolute truth. So in the Aries point, very significant is that idea of the pandemic. I also want to point out that 2258, though that's about 28 minutes outside of, but still enough to be an aspect, is that Pluto energy. And that Pluto energy is one of the first things we have, especially planet-wise, right off of that midheaven. And it kind of is indicative of our future that is transforming before our very eyes. And in part, it's hard work. It's also about restriction and how all of that is changing us, hopefully for the better. Jupiter is there, and I do feel that even though it's retrograde, the strategies that we're employing, when we follow them, I do believe it does help us. The other thing I wanted to point out, barely, but still there, is this idea of dependency, which brings in Hades and Venus. You know, the fact that, again, our system is set up in such a way that we all are expected to earn all this money to be able to keep things going. And Hades Venus, it's talking about a couple things. It's talking about the disease and how it's affecting our money. But it's also talking about something like dirty money. And when you look at the 12th house, and Mars is coming to the ascendant from that 12th house with this 13 degrees also on the IC, with this Apollon over here with Poseidon. Okay, it makes me wonder if we're not going to be finding out about some mismanagement of money by people in charge. And that's really upsetting because, here we are with all kinds of economic issues because we have to change how we live. I mean, that's what this whole pandemic's about. If we had listened to the original predictions, we would know that. So the fact that the news is a big factor too, and I'm sure that part of this is also the media, because they play a big part in things like this. But also, what is this enabling telling us here? Now, it's not on an angle, but it is on the Aries point. So it falls in with a lot of the other stuff. We're talking about this disease. It falls in with, so what is being enabled? Who's being enabled? Are we enabling other people? Again, and where does pride show up in all of that? And pride is an aspect of everything going on. So are we learning things because of people enabling people, because of pride? So some things to look for. You would expect to see Jupiter around the midheaven coming from the 9th, because a lot of the strategy about going back to school is not just seen here, it's here. And one of the things about astrology, and notice that I read so many things here. One of the things that I've learned as an astrologer who works with asteroids, trans-Neptunians, and a bunch of other things is the idea of the repeated theme. See, now, some of the traditional astrologers that don't want to add all of this stuff into their charts would give you the argument that they don't feel the need for a repeated theme, but repeated theme is really important, because if a theme continues to repeat, it's telling you the strength of that scenario. It is important. Also, with trans-Neptunians and asteroids, we might get more details on that theme that we did not have previously. The other interesting concept with all of this, okay, is, and it's a wide orb. The only reason why it's important at all is because it's a part of a new moon. But we're talking about a wide orb of Neptune opposing Mercury. And we can look at that in a lot of different ways. And I know there's some positive things that you can say about that, because Neptune, of course, is compassion, and could be that, but it also could be the lack of compassion, because we're talking about an opposition. We could also, because it's coming from the 12th house, be referring to deceptions that are taking place behind the scenes, the actions. When this Mercury is thinking that is not in line, and this is also communication that is not in line with what's really going on here. Okay, so I want to point that out. It's really, really important. Also, Neptune and Mars both show up in the 12th house. No, they're not an aspect. But the fact that they're both there together is not necessarily a good, warm, and fuzzy feeling, especially since Neptune and Aries are both extremely strong where they are, because they're both in signs that they rule. So we've got Neptune in Pisces, and we've got Aries and Mars in Aries. So not the best in my opinion. I've heard other astrologers give a more positive play on this. I am not going to give it such. I'm not as confident. I'm not as confident because if you take the angles of this chart, and I know that when I look at astrologers online, they tend to look at the traditional aspects of things, you know, like this Uranus at 10 degrees, and the fact that Uranus is coming right off of that descendant. Now, they might look at that Uranus and start talking about Uranus in terms of Vesta, or, you know, something that's squaring it, or something that is in aspect to it. I'm not going to just talk about that because one of the reasons I'm doing these videos is for educational purposes, and I'm going to be honest with you, the technique I use is cusps. And the cusps of the ascendant descendant, the cusp of the midheaven, the IC, those are really, really important. So when I'm working with angles of the chart, the way I was taught by my teacher, Martha Lang Westcott, who has her own website, marthalangwestcott.com, she talks about how we can go 10 degrees on either side, which is a lot, 20 degrees for each angle. The conversations that we can drum up from all of these angles is quite extraordinary. The other really cool thing to do with this is to take your chart and to place out where each one of these angles falls in your own chart, and you could see more of your reaction or what it's doing to you personally. But I want to get back to these angles because I'm not even using, I have here a whole, this is my extra list, okay? These things are not always on here. So I add in when I do private work. I don't always do it when I'm doing work on the computer, though today I'm going to try and work with the Aries point a little bit, and I do want to point some things out from my list of asteroids. The asteroids we're going to stick with, though, are the ones on the list for the moment. And as I look at these, and I look at 4, so we're going to go from 20 to 4, and it goes all the way to 14, we do have we do have one of the black moons. This is not the biggie, okay? That would be, I'm looking for her right now. She isn't really big in this chart, if I remember correctly. She doesn't have as much as sometimes. This is another, there are several, and it's really worth even just looking at those or studying them. They are very interesting. Not always the best, but very, very interesting. Here she is. Oh yeah, she's right, here we go, with the ascendant, I can't talk today. It's another ascendant, okay? Is completely, absolutely in alignment at 22 Aries 56 and 22 Aries 58, 2 minutes apart. They too are within the Aries point, something that we're going to be aware of. And we're going to be aware of people that have some strange thinking. Okay? And I think that's part of what comes out from this 12th house theme, because remember, what's going on in the 12th house is not right out in our view. The other thing that's really important here is when you look at these, this one has a lot, okay, because this goes from 9 degrees all the way to 29 degrees, okay? So there's our, and we have quite a bit here. Now, along with strategy, and so we can expand or go to school because Jupiter is both, there's going to be a lot of transition through how we handle things. We're going to transform, and it is a burden. It's difficult at first, but it's really worthwhile. We have to take some risks, lots of risks, as a matter of fact. And don't you know, here is face coverings. How much you want to make a bet if you go to school, you wear a face mask. I believe it will be mandatory. I believe we are coming to a place where face masks, as I said in my last video of the full moon, I really believe that they are really encouraging a federal mandate on wearing masks. Because it is a protective mechanism. It's how we can go about our business. And I know that people poo-poo these masks, but I don't understand why. Because they really are what's going to allow us to have any economy at all. And that's showing up in astrology. I know that people are, this is a nice one because this is, people want to get out there. They want to, but they also want to stay in the background. So, you're not staying out of the big crowds, probably the smartest thing to do, but this is how charming, okay? And people are really trying to help or getting help. And I do believe help does come to us. It's interesting because the stimulus checks, we are getting one. My feeling is, however, that it doesn't come until this new moon takes hold. And why do you say that I would say that? Because of the Uranus at 10 degrees, even though it's retrograde, is completely conjunct Circe, which is an asteroid of getting and giving help in the 11th hour. Yep, we're going to really need that. So also very, very important. I tend to put the greater importance on the ascendant, which is the environment, and the future or social status, as it's sometimes referred to, as being very, very important. And you can tell that there's an incredible amount of retro there. We are supposed to be in retrospect. We are supposed to be thinking this out. So this is not an overt energy. This is more of a subtle energy. The Kronos and the Hygeia down here, and we got Venus and we've got Hades. This is another really big dependency on others for money, but it also refers to endings. And the endings has something to do with authority. I'm not going to speculate with politics on this, but I am going to tell you that as an astrologer, Atropos, which is 13 degrees, 12 minutes of Cancer right here, is in line to be aspecting with everything else we've talked about. But what's really interesting is that 1304 Cancer is, there it is, Kronos, authorities. So could we be losing a doctor? I don't see death, but that doesn't mean it wouldn't be. Or does it have something to do with the president getting rid of a doctor? I think he could try. I think that he would love to. I'm just not sure that would happen. So again, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure because of death. And I know that people keep saying stupid things like, oh, the disease is going up, but these people recover. They're younger. I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing more death. And I've seen that in the last chart, and on this one, it's right on the angle. So the seriousness of the amount of people that we're going to lose through this pandemic is sad beyond belief. Though it was predicted, it doesn't make the sadness any less. Something about doing this kind of work. I've been a card reader and an astrologer. Ironically, I've been an astrologer since I'm 9 years old. For real. I know it sounds crazy, but I was. My grandmother got me started. Then I also was a tarot reader from like 19 or 20 years old on, okay? And I read for people both. And I can tell you this honestly, knowing does not take the pain away. No matter how much you predict something. It's forewarned is forearmed, but that's all it is. Emotionally, I don't know that it makes much of a difference. So we know there's death coming. We also have to question a lot of that because I'm not sure that all that information is available to us. So as I head over here, the last thing I'm going to do for the Aries point, I'm going to look at this Apple. This is about businesses, but it's also about more than one problem, more than one issue, more than one solution, more than one state, more than one way to handle all of this. And Poseidon is there also, and they're both in aspect Poseidon, of course, being the media, propaganda, so be wary of propaganda, gaslighting, and being lied to. I don't really believe in fake news. I do believe in gaslighting. I do believe that people intentionally lie. I think that when you're doing real news, though, you're supposed to have statistics to back up what you say. My problem with the press is not that they are lying to us, it's that they're not telling us. And there are so many things that are sometimes missing from the news. I have a saying. I listen to a lot of YouTube. Astrologers, tarot readers, mediums, whatever. I love, because you know what? I think they ask the best questions. I don't think reporters ask the best questions. I definitely feel like if a reporter wanted to know how to get to the depth of their story, perhaps they should start looking at some of these tarot readers who are asking some really, really good questions. Just my opinion. But questions are important because there's no other way we're going to get answers, as we have a 5 degree, not far away from Volcanus at 1 degree. Sphinx. What's not known? I think that sometimes is more important. Up here, it doesn't really start till about 24. So even though I already talked about this, it's because this is in the Aries point. So we're talking about the pride of people. I can tell you why people are having issues with their businesses, wanting to keep them open. It's pride. I don't want to lose my business. Well, you know what? I've lost one. So I'm speaking to people who have lost their businesses. I too have lost one of my businesses. As a matter of fact, a big chunk of my income. This is a side business, or it always has been. But I think that more and more this is going to become my main business, because I don't know how I could revive my side business. But I'm not going to sit around and blame the government, and it's certainly not the governor's fault, and it surely isn't the pandemic's fault. It is the way it is. It may have been time to let go of that business. I definitely, though, as I've been told by one of my friends, I have a more positive outlook on things. I tend to think when something happens, it is a lesson. Saturn, I think what we're going through with Pluto is out of our control. So it's Saturn. It's learning to live with, to work with those things that are out of our control. Redefine yourself. I'm doing it. Fortunately, I had this business all the time as a side. But what's really, really cool is that it doesn't have to be a side business. So I'm actually wallowing in an opportunity. I wish that others would. Pride. Pride goeth before the fall. Pride is not always a good thing. And I see pride and Mars going together pretty well right here. And I don't think it's going to be pretty. So again, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more Karen videos out there, and we're going to be seeing a lot more people doing stupid things because they have to wear a mask, because mask is up here. So I wanted to point that out. I want to now, for the last part of what I'm doing, take you to a dial. And in this dial, the Aries point here, other than the distancing of the general public or distancing in our own, which is what Vesta is, also the goal of making money or making, like I'm doing, reinventing ourselves, because they're both there. And I think that that is really, really, really important. Now down here, because I like to bring my arrow to both places, that is actually a decision factor. Okay, I don't read a lot about it when I'm doing just my personal work, but I thought it was really interesting the way it showed up with Vesta Sun and Vesta Moon. So I wanted to bring that up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about some asteroids. They are not going to show up on my dial. I'm going to kind of talk about where they are. So the first thing I want to talk about is if I go to 22, okay. Oh my, another enabler. And I didn't even, that's where Hebe fell. And I did talk about it. And you know what's really funny is, you know what we're enabling? Can you see the dial? We're enabling a health crisis. Yes, we are. Push, push, push to open. Push, push, push. Because the government, the rich keep stealing from our monies, and we get nothing as people. Why the government should be doing what governments do is take care of the people. I think somewhere along the line, in particular, our government lost concept of that. I don't know what they think their job is, but I thought that was pretty interesting. And you notice that as I'm giving you this speech, Ceres, which is the mother, it's also nurturing, is right in that axis. So, in other words, if enabling people is a way of nurturing them, then we're not doing ourselves any favors with this health crisis. Maybe we need to tell some of our politicians that. So I wanted to talk about that spot because we've got Polaris there. We've also got Dreyfus. How many times will this pandemic be used as a scapegoat? You know what? If a business fails, and I'm sorry to say this because I am one of these people, maybe it was time. Who are we to play God and make those decisions? So I don't want to say that I don't have compassion. I do. I am one of them. I just think that we need to think beyond that. We need to grow up here. No wonder we're getting a Niobe over on the descendant on the chart. That's also childishness or child. Okay. The other thing that shows up here, I'm just kind of going to breeze through these, is the idea of Anubis, which is death again, although usually death of an animal. So I don't know how that will play into it. That we'll have to see. It's not in there real good, but it is a factor. The other factors, again, Ganymede, which is another asteroid of enabling, is also falling right up here at the top of this at 0 degrees of Cancer. So again, not far from Ganymede do we have Phaethon. Phaethon is usually vehicles, but it's also things that are kind of out of control. And it's like 2 degrees. Now, in astrology, at this kind of astrology, we really don't go beyond 2.5 degrees. I don't. I tend to try to stay closer to 1 degree. I work with so many points on a chart that I don't need to spread so far, other than when I'm doing my basic readings on angles. So then I go down here, and I said Hygeia was there, and I want to point this out because I thought this was amazing. Hygeia, you're looking at it, see, Hygeia is conjunct right now Karma. It's hard for people to understand that this is our karma. I get it. We don't learn lessons any other way. It's the human condition. So it's karma that's running with Hygeia. Dollaro is running with it, which is the dollar. This is about, I said it before, I'll say it again, destroying this economy so we can build another. I'm working on it. I hope you are too. The other thing that I thought was really interesting here, coming into Stockholm and down here with Minerva. Okay, so Minerva's running with Stockholm. And remember this, Pythia, okay? So Atlantis is not so far away. It's out here, which is gloom and doom. But I really want to point this out because, Stockholm is this idea of behaving badly or treating people badly. Treating people badly is not a strategy. It's not a strategy. So Stockholm, being bullied, is not a good strategy, although I think somebody's going to be using that strategy, and I'm not going to go into details about that. The other one from here, so here I am, I'm jumping ahead of myself, is the idea that Hebe and wake, which is a consciousness, being awake, being conscious. Hebe, again, being, as I told you, is over here. So the idea of being conscious is right here. We have to be real about what we're enabling, not just for others within our own lives, but what are we enabling in terms of our politicians? What are we allowing as people? I think we're thinking a lot about that right now, and I think that's a good thing to be thinking about. So as I go on, and I'll make sure I get all these, the fact that Sisyphus is here, kind of out of it a little bit. Artemis is there, which is hunting and being hounded, but it's also this idea of hunting. The idea that Sisyphus is there, it's the old idea of here we go again, here we go again. Here, if we don't learn the lesson, I guarantee you, here we go again. And that includes things like major shutdowns. So please be aware that that is not out of the realm of reality. Although I predict that for a little bit later in our year, that is a possibility. I did Hebe and Wake. I'm just making sure I cover everything here. I'm pretty sure that I did. I did cover the face masks. Believe it or not, they're in here now. And boy, are people excited about those face masks. Not necessarily in a good way either. What a shame. What an absolute shame. That is actually not the Aries point, though. Pluto is our Aries point on this one, as is Pythia, which we've already spoken about. And along with that, loony. We'll see a lot of those loonies. Okay, so I just wanted to go through that. I hope that covers it for you. I am real excited to share this with you. I'm excited because, first of all, thank you to anyone who is subscribing. Yay! Number one. Number two, thanks for the comments, guys. I like talking to you guys. It's a great way to spend my time because I am trying to do this and I want to do it right. So I want to thank you all. So please like, share, comment, get to know me. Let me get to know you. And as always, if you'd like some private work, or if you have any questions at all that you would like to directly, not put them on the comment page, but actually hit me directly, DivinationsCounselingService.org. I have a message box there. I will get it immediately. I am able to respond to people immediately through the website. So I usually don't take very long, even for comments on the website. I like to get back to people within 24 hours. So if you can give me 24 hours in any one of those places, I really would love to hear from you. It would really excite me to have this channel become a bigger deal. So I thank all of you who have been participating in that up until this point. And please continue and share it with your friends and get them to do the same. Thanks so much. And as always, happy readings to you and yours. And keep your masks on.